Thank you.
Starts on page 25. Much of this is good because it's not in depth. Some of this should be updated. Not a whole lot of it because it's still the basic concepts that can change. And this is more of an overview of the specific thing. Competition training, it does discuss the elements of energy training, muscular training. So some of what we talked about is in here. Again, some of what's in here is not relevant to the discussion that we had. But I also, if you look at the emails that they sent you, they sent you a PDF on this thing, page on it. So, unless you were a late register, you probably already received that. So this information was given to you before class. So I suspect that if you just look at your email on your phone, on your computer, that'd be a safe bet. I'm learning that people do not read attachments on emails, so they just read an email off the phone. So sometimes they're not getting all the information. Anyways, it's there. What do you smile about? So you like your same as me. If there's a spelling error, they probably dictated the email didn't type. This has some other nuggets in it. Talks a little bit about community competition, about the goals. Some of this is the same, some of this is different. You know, some of the karate competitions are going retro now. They're going back to the mirror system. Some of them. And the flag system, the old flag system, not the new flag system. Like page 10, talking about refereeing. This is the information that has to go through the referee's head. If he has cognitive overload, like we talked in the last class, better not be a referee. You have to perceive a scoring technique. You have to know whether the competitor is inside bounds or out of bounds, whether he's broken the rules in his performance of the technique. Is there any sign of injury in the contestant's hand? You know, there's a whole bunch of things you've got to think about that happen at one time. So the job of the referee, you know, is not an easy one. But a well-trained referee should be able to be given a set of sports rules. And once they get to understand the sports rules, should be able to administer them. The only difference between the conduct referee, which is your signals. So a well-trained karate referee should be able to move into a jiu-jitsu match, and a well-trained jiu-jitsu referee should be able to move into a karate match for a little bit of training. If they're experienced. Okay. And we used to have.
Okay, I'll do that.
I got one to help.
Yeah, okay. Great. Yeah, I'll shoot a text to you right away. Great. Thank you.
You know, we mentioned a little bit about sen, no sen, go no sen, sen, no sen. Now, the referee, when you're standing there and you're watching the fight, you not only have to, when I'm fighting you, I got to predict your movements. I got to figure if I do this, how you react, or whether you're going to start the attack first and how I'm going to react to that. And there's this interchange between two people, right? Trying to figure out what's going to happen and who's going to make it happen. Who's going to attack me before I hit him? Can I position him so I get the attack? Well, he's pretty much offensive, defensive, so I'm going to have to probably carry it. You know, so I got a good 80%, 20% chance if I go with that direction. All these things, right? When you're the referee, guess what you got to do? calculate that for both competitors. You have to be able to look at both competitors, figure out which one's going to move first, how they're going to move, and how the other guy's going to react to the way they move, or not. Otherwise, you can't see the point. So comité experience is very, very helpful to be a referee. Because you learn a one-on-one, and then you become a referee, and it becomes two-on-one. That's one way of looking at the referee's job. We don't always think of it that way. The other way we look at the referee's job is, was a karate technique, receive a technique, was it a karate technique? Was it, did it go to the right target? Was the quality good enough for a score? Did it contact the target? Was it strike control for the target attack? Otherwise you're going to go into a penalty analysis. Was the strike better inbounds? Was the bounce played, meaning was there a yame or timeout? Was it, okay, and if there is contact in the target area, you immediately have to know whether the contact was excessive. Was there lack of control? Was there injury? If so, what was the degree of injury? Was it major or minor? Who was at fault? The guy getting hit or the guy doing the hitting? So accidental or deliberate or malicious or foreboding. All while you're trying to make sure you're reading the fighters and staying where you're supposed to be. So, you know, a good referee has to develop that skill, and its skill can be developed. And as we talked before, it may take time to develop it, but you can be led into that. You know, in stages, you get there. A good referee can do that. But, you know, so that's the referee's job. The comité match, anyways. But, you know, refereeing has a lot of other things that we don't always talk about. We talk about the rules, applying the rules, not making mistakes. Well, the first thing you got to do is make sure the rules are followed. Because the winner is the winner according to the rules. That's why face contact is so controversial. Because if face contact is made, if you broke the rule. I don't care if you're the better fighter, you broke the rule. As a result, you're not supposed to be the winner. But there are a lot of fighters, they don't like that. Do they?
A major point of contention could be, as an example, the one finals match in the Olympics. Guy came underneath with a knee drop, and the kicker, who was a better fighter, but hit him in the head and knocked him out, and it was clearly a disqualification. And boy, the screaming and opinions that ranked through the internet, because the people that were rendering their opinions don't know a thing about officiating and have no concept of the rules. I had made an observation, and all of the seniors from the NKF were in full agreement with my observation. So it was clearly a matter, as Hanchieki just pointed out, that it was lack of control, and it was deserving of a disqualification. That's all there was to it. Better fighter? No, he broke the rules.
The other thing the referee should do is interfere as little as possible. This isn't your match. You're not the choreographer. You want to keep the atmosphere enjoyable and fun, you got to show concern for the competitors. We used to have that issue all the time. They just want to get the matches over with. Where's the concern for the competitors? You know, the referee has a job function. This is what we're talking about. What is your job function?
Stop the action when things get interesting.
So there are demands on the referee. Okay,
Dickie Donovan quotes that in his book.
Mike David,
He quoted George Henderson.
John Todd Eason.
Yeah.
You guys might as well come up because you're going to be taking over after us. Come on up. I was waiting for Mike Todd Eason to get here. So they're going to take over. You know, we're going to split this. I'm going to talk for about 10, 15 minutes. That's all. And then they're going to take it into the different areas, and they're going to talk about, you know, refereeing or whatever it is.
He's just for
So,
anybody
yeah,
take
one
it.
function for karate, and separate function for So there are mental demands. If you're not in good shape, you're going to get fatigued out. So a good referee is in good shape. Play referee soccer. You run more as a referee, or you run more as a soccer player. So soccer players are going to have to sprint. Referees don't sprint as much, but there's a lot of running. So if you want to be a referee, you know, if you can't stand up for 8 hours, forget being a soccer. Okay?
And you can't
You can't work
not
all
go to
day,
the bathroom for
you
you.
work all day, and they're going to command your body for all day, and they're going to say you signed it out first and you did it for the Army. Okay? All right, because the Army owns your body. Did you know that? That's how they do it. You give them your body through your contract. Okay, you have to have confidence. You know, you have to exude confidence. If you're not confident, be confident. Act. Concentrate. You have to control your emotions. We used to have one referee. He fights with people in the stands all the time. I won't mention who it is because it's irrelevant today. But he fights all the time with the spectators. Imagine you're in the old University of Akron Hall, and there's what, 12 feet up where the spectators are, and the referee's down here on the floor arguing with the spectators. You know, I mean, you know, there shouldn't be any emotion in the match. Okay, all that interrupts your ability to use your mental skills because you're dividing your attention span. Not only is cognitive learning be overloaded, but your brain can be overloaded in whatever function you're doing. You know, if you want to make somebody screw up, give them too much information. You know, we joke another way to make somebody screw up is teaching things that don't need taught. Think about that one. So, there are some conditioning demands for a karate referee. There are different conditioning demands probably for jiu-jitsu referee. Okay? And you need to know the techniques and mechanisms of refereeing, and you need to be able to express those. Hardy is a signal for Wazari. Well, you know, your job is to make the people back here that can't see you understand your hand signals. Your job is not to pronounce the point. Your job is to make sure that the competitor knows what the board is, the table out knows what the board is, and the spectators know what the board is. That's all you're doing. You're facilitators. But we sometimes think we're the guy.
In addition to that, consider the international, in the WKL, English is the official language that nobody uses. So you have to be able to communicate with people through the kata of the referee because you don't speak the language, so there can't be any verbal communication. It has to be done through hand signals, and the hand signals have to be correct.
So, in short, what he's saying is that the official language is English, and they simply ignore it because they can't get officials to make the language. There they lose people who can officiate because they can't understand English. They need people, so they just ignore the rule. But the referees have to speak English. But that's not the only problem. I've been a referee where you can't even hear yourself because of the crowd. And so again, the kind of officiating is very important. And then you have to have good visual and perceptual skills, which we talked about kind of as an introduction. So you have to be able to see what happened. Okay? And as we get older, the seeing becomes more difficult. The important aspects of a good official. What are they? If you're a good official, how do you know you're a good official? Are you consistent? Are you fair? Do you have mental toughness? You're going to stand behind your decision. You're not going to give your decision in a way that makes, well, I'm giving it to him, but I understand that your point of view, so. No, you just, that's my decision. Forget their point of view. You're not playing to them. So yeah, I know what you're thinking, but I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do. So too many times officials try to do that, try to act appeasing to their, whoever they're trying to impress. You don't do that. You just work the sport. That's all it is. You're not emotionally involved in the battle. You have to have quick and accurate decision making, which can be practiced and comes with confidence and experience. You need to be calm, regardless of whether the woman in the stands calling you or being impossible. And if the competitors talk back to you, you do not get excited. You can't get adrenalized in the match. You just let them say what they say. Say, you then need to get a penalty. And continue. Yeah. Or you give the penalty. But you see, you do it in a very calm, non-emotional fashion. This is your job. Okay, you've got to be able to relate to the members of your team. And again, have the stamina. So, consistency. What does consistency mean? It means your decisions are the same within the match and between matches. You need to apply the rules equally to both people. Now, if you're not consistent, that's the first thing that we're going to smell. The audience is going to smell it, the coach is going to smell it. They're going to smell you not being consistent. So you make a mistake, then you try to even it out. That's not being consistent. You made a mistake, get back and be consistent. Don't give the other person a point because you gave them a point you shouldn't give. Next thing you know, the whole thing just capitulates further and further. Now you got both sides mad. Get the idea? So consistency is very important, and you have to understand that. And you know, sometimes the rules don't make it look like you're consistent. Not much you can do about that. Don't get emotionally involved. You made the correct decision. You know? So, you know, the old some rules used to say you have to escalate the penalty. When you have a penalty, if you give them this level, the next one has to be higher. So they make a minor penalty, and the minor penalty is penalized greater than the bigger penalty because it has to escalate. That doesn't play well with the spectators who don't know the rules. Ignore the spectators because they're not part of the match. So consistency is very important. If you're inconsistent, the players have to guess on what they can and cannot do. They don't know what's going to work or what's not going to work. Coaches get frustrated and less trusting. And again, we get back to the evening up calls. We make matters worse. Okay? So these are things that we don't always talk about in referee courses, but they're important to the function that you understand, again, your job description, and what is expected of you and what your role actually is. So it's not an ego trip, it's something that you are volunteering as an activity that you feel is worthwhile and contributing to the concept of sport. Because you feel that there's value to that contribution that you make. This is how you should approach it. I think it's a healthier way to approach it. So to achieve consistency, referees have to demonstrate good technique. Good technique of efficiency. What's the first part of good technique of efficiency? Of referee? Consistency. Everything is better. It's the biggest thing. You know, you've got to apply the rules where you're supposed to apply them all the time, correctly as you can, and in the same manner, in a match and between matches, between competitors. Rule interpretation. Now, we get to some physical aspects of it. Understanding ring positioning. Proper hand signals. Okay, and then they bring together good mental and psychological skills. Just go back to not getting emotionally involved in the match. And those are the techniques of officiating. Keeping your adrenaline under control. Being able to do that. So sometimes, you know, you've got to understand, how do you control adrenaline? Breathe, right? That's what we teach. Okay, you have to have a report. Report as being a experienced person in the match and being a, I'm not sure what the right word is, but you're higher up in the hierarchy, so, you know, the coaches, you have a report with the coaches, and they respect you, you respect their role, they respect your role. The competitors respect your role, you respect their role. That's very important. You don't hold yourself aloof. I think that's very important. You have to hold yourself apart, but not aloof. That's different. versus, see, I lose. I'm doing my job. Not I'm doing my job with me. I mean, it's two different things. So you see that in referees. You'll see that. Need effective communication skills. And okay. Obviously, you know, if you don't communicate correctly with people. So one of the things, the first communication skill you have in life, don't talk to the athletes. We used to say, don't coach the athletes. You shouldn't even talk to the athletes. They ask you a question, you politely answer it. That is not talking to an athlete. You don't hold conversations. Okay, so you referee a match, a couple of matches, you step out, you talk to the guy's coach, you're over there talking about punching, kicking, which may have nothing to do with the competition at all, with somebody watching and thinks it does, and then you go back in and you referee again. And luck has it, the person that didn't like what you were doing is competitors in the ring, and the person you were talking to is friends competitors in the ring, or his competitors in the ring. Have you created respect? Have you created trust? No. So you just simply keep yourself separate. And if anybody talks, you know, you can explain the decision. Don't explain your decision. Explain the rule. There's a difference. If you have to answer that. Okay? Now, when you leave the competition, you know, talk all you want about what you did, why you did, and all that kind of stuff. You just don't want to talk it while the competition is in play throughout the day. Because that will help make it harder for you to do your job correctly, or to have your job perceived that it's done correctly. So perception is sometimes just as important as the actuality, the reality. So decisions should be simultaneous with the action, otherwise you appear uncertain. We used to have people who threw up the kata flash, or the kata, the numbers slowly. That was back in the old days. People would sit here and try to figure out what the chief referee was going to do, and then put their numbers so they didn't look embarrassed. Seriously, people were worried about that. No, you want to give a guy a 6 and he wants to give him a 7? You're a 6. He's a 7. No, maybe I better go. Okay, flip it up. Okay, I got 6-9. You know, I got my hand here. Okay, in the last instance, I raised my card. I flipped the number. Guys used to do that. Sir?
One of the things that I've told referees, we use scorecards. In the event that referees are watching each other, judges are watching each other, you shouldn't be scoring as the action is going. You shouldn't have to wait to the end of the kata to make your decision. It takes way too long. As soon as the kata is finished, they've bowed, you should be able to throw the score. And so you're making your deductions as the person is doing the kata, so by the time the last action is finished, you've got your fingers inserted inside of the cards, you're ready to flip it, the whistle blows, pop, you flip it, it's up, and we can copy what you've scored, which is too quick. You want to be subtle.
Yeah, some of us, kind of the reason why the fingers and the thing there is because guys are looking at each other. And so, you know, if you're flipping there and you've already got a 6-4, you say, oh, he's giving a 6-4, I'm going to give him a 6-3 or 5 or whatever, you know. Okay, so we would disguise the scores by not flipping the card. We actually told people to do this. Don't, you know, get ready to show your score, hold it back so nobody can copy it, because when you're in the corners, you can sometimes see two judges.
But it's even worse when we used to sit 5 in a row.
So, you know, little tricks of judging that kind of come about by trying to be independent and doing your job, not his job. I'm not here to score. He's the center referee. He's sitting in the middle chair. I'm not here to score him, his opinion. I'm here to score my opinion.
When there's 5 judges in a row, we were told that you shouldn't be more than 2 tenths of a point off to the entire panel because you all have the same view. The whole idea of going into the corners is to have completely different views of the kata. So, as the person's moving this way, those people have the back view. They can't see what the people from the front view have. You all have your own view. So therefore, you can be a fair amount in disagreement, and you can only deduct what you see.
So, if it's a judgment call, it's a judgment call. What cannot be protested?
Subject to.
So there's nothing to be afraid of. So, you make it quick, you made your call, go on, ignore the noise in the stands and let's just disrupt to the next match. Just let these calm down, don't try to calm them down yourself, it should be somebody else's job to do that. But I think the ring director or ring control big tournaments, they'll take care of that issue. You just judge the matches. So, you know, judging a tournament locally is different than going to a bigger event, where there's a much more bigger stable of referees. So you got to give the impression of being absolutely certain of what you saw, even if you are not. Because if you show a sign of weakness, and Weimer's your coach, I guarantee you he'll try to twist that and use that against you. Am I right? If you see a weak official, what do? You play him from the coaching stance. I respect it. A good coach should do that. It's not right, but you should do it because that's, you know, you can get away with it. Nothing else. I'm not sure. There's never been a rule that says a coach can't do that. It might bother some people's sense of fair play, but there's no rule against it that I've ever seen. Two different things, right? Your sense of fair play and honesty or whatever you think you should do. But, you know, maybe you don't feel it's your job to manipulate, but some of the coaches will do that manipulation. They will start it before the match even starts. And, I mean, I had one time, this was in Pittsburgh, I forget what year, 94 or something. They came to me and said, this ring is a mess, this guy can't control the ring. We need you to take it over. And I go out there, and it's 16 to 17-year-old boys and bands. Just got like 12 kids in it. Half the kids are sons of other referees, the high monkey bucks in the organization, you know, they're all in the same damn thing. So I walked out there, and within 15 seconds, I pointed to the coach and said, "One more word on you, you're out of here." Son of a gun, I couldn't figure out why that ring was a problem. It disappeared immediately. Because what did they understand? I had the power within the rules to toss the coach. And I was very matter of fact about it, totally unemotional, said, "You do it again, you're done." And they believed me. If I'd have shown a sign of weakness, what would have happened? What happened with the other referee? Because they were getting to the other referee and he was unable to control the match because he was a more of a junior official, and with all these other senior guys, he didn't know how to handle it. He didn't feel confident. When you're a referee, throw a karate rank out the door. You're a referee, he's a coach, they're a competitor. Where's rank? Where's the instructor, Sensei Shihan, all that? It's gone, because that's the nature of the competition. No, you go back to the dojo and your Shihan wants to ball you out for what you did, well, that's different. But at the competition, you have to do the job that you were volunteered to do. So you need to have rapport, decisiveness, poise, be in control of your emotions, integrity, call honestly without bias, never air your opinions about players or other officials or decisions, maintain respect for others after you. You know, don't explain your calls, not at the competition. You just ask them. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Okay, judgment has to be there. You have to understand the rules. I think everybody goes through that. You have to practice officiating because, again, it causes mental overload. If you're too worried about the process of officiating, the kind of officiating, can you officiate? So you have to make some of that automatic. It have to be schema in your body, in other words, in your brain, so that you can just, you know, you move. Okay? You learn to move automatically with the fighters. Okay? You train that into you so that you can spend more time observing the match. Because the more time you've got to worry about where you're supposed to be, the less time you can observe the match. So again, that comes with experience, practice, and knowledge, which over time the referees get. You're confident. You have to have self-confidence. You can't show self-doubt. And if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Because that's going to get in your way. If you know, be a competitor, be a coach. You know? You should enjoy the job. Otherwise, I just don't think you can do a good job at it. It's just one more thing you have to deal with. So when you prepare to officiate, you know, you should be in good physical shape. Okay, you might want to go through some concentration, some self-talk, some imagery, imagine watching points before you go out on the floor, so that you start to mind what you're doing. You have to this in karate, you referee by slipping follow the movement of the tatami. You referee more matches than the competitors fight. You should be at least as good, if not better condition than the competitors. Then have adequate strength, flexibility, speed, and coordination. You need to be able to handle anaerobic bursts of energy and recover quickly. Not just one match, but the next match, and the next match, and the next match. So your energy demands are different than the demand of the competitors. Their demands are within about 3 minutes. Your demand is 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and 3 minutes. Now, you may not be moving 100% like they are, but, you know, your endurance is important. Again, your fatigue affects the outcome of the match. It wouldn't hurt to do a pre-game warm-up, because you're going to be doing some physical activity, and you want to get tight, and you may want to warm up a couple of times. So you're out there refereeing, you come off, you sit on the chair, and you got to go back out again. Well, you know, if you've done a lot of hiking, you know if you sit for more than 5 minutes, you got to start all over again. So you're hiking, you know, you sit down, your body is hot, but for 5 minutes you got to get up, and it's like the beginning of the hike. Okay? So if you're doing an aggressive hike, in hilly country, you sit down, you lose all what you built up to keep the stamina for the hike. The same thing in refereeing. You sit down too long, then maybe if you know you're going to come up for referee again, you get up, you do some stretching, do a little warm-ups, you know, build some body heat, wake the body up. Because it will get lethargic. So you have both a mental and a physical pre-game warm-up. So, you know, you want to get yourself attuned to the matches. You said do some imagery. You should be active in karate, that helps, or jiu-jitsu, whichever one you're in, and have some fighting experience. The more the better. Because the more you understand what the competitors are doing, the more you can understand what to expect them from them. You watch many matches, so you should be watching matches too. Watch the other referees. Keep your eyes alert. Become familiar with common techniques and strategies that competitors use. Learn the ebb and flow of a match. Okay? You know, the match does kind of, some matches start very quick and end slow, some start slow and end quick, some start quick, disappear, and the last 30 seconds pick up. There's an ebb and flow. So you've got to kind of see that happen. And sometimes you can judge that based on the endurance level of the contestants. So if you see a contestant getting tired, you figure they're not going to move as far as the guy who's not tired. Okay, so I got to be more attuned to where he's going to go than where this guy's going to go, because odds on this guy isn't going to go very far because he's fatigued. So you know, but you practice that. And a good way to practice is just watching the matches you're not refereeing. Okay, so you develop a sensitivity to the emotion of the sport. That's kind of important because, you know, people get adrenalized. And if you respond to every single incident of adrenaline, you're just going to get yourself adrenalized along with them. You're not going to do a good job. So you're going to understand that coach is going to get adrenalized. You're going to understand the competitors are going to get adrenalized. So you've got to manage them. Their adrenaline, not just yours. You can't manage them if you let your adrenaline get carried away. So that's very important. You know, look at the competition from the perspective of the player but the coach. Okay, so the more you understand their role and their emotion, the better you can manage the match. And you know the things that you might do. What I might do might be different than what you might do, but know what those things are, so that you know you start to see that maybe you give some inadvertent signs that you don't intend to, that the coach is never picking up on. And so you just, and then change that behavior. then you should imagine, before you go out and get using imagery, imagine how, go through making the calls so that you don't make half calls, you just do, and then so that this becomes automatic. Okay? So you don't have to think about that, it just happens. You don't feel self-conscious raising your hand in here. A lot of people feel self-conscious, they raise their hand like this. We had that happen already today. People who don't want to put their hand up, they put it up here. Just put your hand up. If you just do this all the time, you'll do this and not think about it. If you only do this, you'll think about putting your hand up there because it'll feel uncomfortable for a lot of people. So you just got to imagine yourself doing it. If you're a kata competitor, oftentimes imagery works. We use imagery in training to demo team to do back hand flips and things like that in here. Okay? Imagine with close your eyes, imagine it, open up and go out and do it. And you oftentimes have a better result than if they stand there like this and they don't. So you can use those types of techniques on yourself to help improve your ability as a referee of the ring. So misdirected attention can cause errors. Can't pay attention to stand, just walk about. Know what to focus on, what cues to look for, be able to maintain that focus for a long period of time. Include the duration of all matches and the duration of the game. Well, you have to keep that focus up for that match and then you get to the next match. So it's a focus that you need to be able to maintain the same focus on every match until your job is done. I'm not saying this is easy, and I'm not saying that you may find yourself, you committed a referee for 6 hours and then 10 hours later you still can't get the tournament done. You still do the best you can. And you don't let, you try not to let the fatigue, which will happen, interfere with your ability to do a good job as a referee. Pardon? So, being in good shape as fatigue will hinder your ability to retain focus. Low motivation and interruptions also make it difficult to remain focused on the competition. That's why I said if you don't have the motivation, referee don't. Because your motivation will be low and you will not do a good job. And that's not fair to competitors. Because again, your job is, fairness is part of your job. And then there's ways of practicing concentration. We've been talking a little bit about that. And then when you're done refereeing, relax, unwind. Don't get drunk, that's what a lot of referees do. For God's sake, don't get drunk the night before, go to your room at 2 o'clock and show up the next day to referee if you're at a big tournament. Because you're not going to do a good job, you're not going to be focused, and you're not going to be in shape for it. The party should happen at the end of the competition. It never does. But it should. So, you have your local event that's one day, that's one thing. You have your multi-day event, where some of you guys now are starting to look at going to some multi-day events. So these are things that you're going to find out. These things do come up, and they are concerns. Okay, use feedback. Give yourself feedback. Get feedback from others. If somebody videotaped your matches, some of the events today are videotaped. You can find tapes of the competitions. Go watch yourself. Go see if what you did is what you thought you did. And then, if you made a mistake, why did you make the mistake? Was it because you were inattentive for a moment? Was it because you didn't understand the rule? Was it because you got tired? Was it because you let the chief referee who's yelling at you to make good decisions and just making your job miserable affect you? You can't do that. Okay, you can't let those things affect you. No, again, none of this is easy. Okay, we could say a lot of the same things, say the same concepts, change vocabulary, and we could talk about the fighter. Because a lot of this stuff is the same. You don't let outside interference, you focus on your competitor. Okay, that kind of thing. You can try to play with a referee, but unless you're really experienced, that'll just get in your way. We talk about being concerned that you're going to score a point to try to make sure the referee can see you make the point. Some fighters who've experienced, you do that, if you try to do that with your beginners, forget it. If they're thinking of that, they're going to lose. Because they can't cognitively process that. Okay? But so a lot of what I said here would apply when you're the competitor or not. It doesn't apply to the coach because he's going to sit in the chair.
Yeah, but the coach works the corner refs.
Yeah, and I'm talking about physically, but you get the idea. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because oftentimes these things are well understood. And we haven't had a lot of people doing a lot of refereeing in the Kwanmukan. But maybe if you have some idea of what the role is, and you can see how it technically relates to other things you do, and how there is an involvement of sport, and how you facilitate other people who are interested in the sport aspect of martial arts. It is an aspect of martial arts, and can have very much an intrinsic reward. But if it's looked as a burden, it's not going to have the intrinsic reward. But if you can get an intrinsic reward out of it, you'll feel more comfortable about volunteering your time at some of these events. Okay? And because you realize your role and how you facilitate the benefit of sport, which can't be facilitated without somebody refereeing. Because there are rules, and the rules need to be applied consistently and fairly. Okay. So that's all I wanted to say about about refereeing. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide the thing up. Shion Angel will head off over there with the people who want to do the karate refereeing, and since this is a jiu-jitsu tatami, we'll do the tatami with the Shihan and Tanadis, and you'll do jiu-jitsu refereeing. I have no idea whether you guys are going to work on rules. You have fighters, you got plenty of people to fight. You just use whoever in your group to do whatever you need to do to accomplish your task. Okay? So we're going to get off a bunch of really decent stuff.